Hello, once again, you're welcome to programming using C++. We are doing the chapter 4, and this chapter 4, we have to talk about the flow control that has to do with conditions and if statement. And I'm Anang, your facilitator for this program. And this program is being supported by ProTechAfrica. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube. You can also like our Instagram page, and then you can also visit our site. I have my email at the right corner over there. You can send me an email or send me a WhatsApp message, and then we can talk about some few questions or challenges you have with respect to C++ and the subject that is under discussion. So now let's move on to whatever we have to talk about with flow controls. So let's read the following statement. It says that the ability to control the flow of your program by allowing it to make decisions on what codes to execute is valuable to the programmer. The if statement allows you to control if a program enters a section of code or not based on whether a given condition is true or false. So over here, we are going to consider some few conditions that has to be satisfied before a particular code of the program can be executed. Before maybe one part of the program can be open to the user, and this has to do with considering some few conditions. One of the important functions of the if statement is that it allows the program to select an action based upon the user's input. For example, by using an if statement to check a user's entered a password, your program can decide whether the user is allowed access to the program or not. So this is it. That we can write an if statement in our program to check whether the password that someone enters is valid or not. If the password is valid or the password is correct, what happens? The program can open up. If the password is wrong, the program can prompt the user to enter another password for 3 times. If the password is wrong, the program can just exit. So this has to do with the aspect of what of the flow conditions that needs to be satisfied. Some conditions within the code must be satisfied before another section of the code can be executed. So that explains that. So now let's look at it. It says that you can use these conditions to perform different actions for different decisions. C++ has the following conditional statement. That is the first one. Use if to specify a block of code to be executed if a specified condition is true. And then we also have use else to specify a block of code to be executed if the same condition is false. And then we also have the else if to specify a new condition to test if the first condition is false. And then we also have the switch to satisfy many alternative block of code to be executed. So we have the syntax of our program or of the if statement over here that has to do with the first if statement. And then it says that if condition, and then we have the block of code that needs to be executed over here, or the block of code that needs to be written over here. So if the condition is true, then this block of code will be executed. If not, the block of code will not be what executed. Now let's look at this example. In the example below, we test two values to find out if 20 is greater than 18. If the condition is true, print some text. So over here we have what? If. And then we put the condition within the bracket that 20 is greater than 18. Is that condition true? If that condition is true, then it means that the output over here, 20 is greater than 18, will be executed. So the 20 is greater than 18 would only be executed if this condition is true, if the first condition is true. Now let's move on and let's proceed on. Maybe probably we'll talk about the second aspect that has to do with the if else. The if else. So let's proceed on with that. It says that use the else statement to specify a block of code to be executed if the condition is false. So over here, if the first condition of the if statement or of the if condition is false, then it comes to execute that of the else statement. So over here, if condition is true, the first block of code will be executed. Now, else, the second block of code will be what? Will be executed. So, if the first condition is false, then it means that the second condition can be executed. So over here we have what? The block of code to be executed if the condition is true, else the block of code to be executed if the condition is false. So if this condition is false, the else statement will be executed. If the condition is true, the first statement will be executed. So now let's take an example over here. We have the include IO stream using namespace std. We have the int main, and then we have int time equals 20. So now we are checking the time. We are saying that if time is less than 18, then see out good day, else see out good evening. So now let's look at the condition, that is the value of the time here. The value of the time is 20. Now we put 20 into this condition. Is 20 less than 18? That is false, because 20 is greater than 18. So because 20 is greater than 18 and 20 is not less than 18, the second expression will be executed. That is, the expression within the else statement will be executed. So over here we have the output, good evening. Why is it so? Because the first condition was false, and because it was false, the else statement was executed. So over here, 20 less than 18 is false. So then good evening will be executed. If we change the value of the int in time and we make time to be 10, then it can be 10 is less than 18. So which is true, because 18 is bigger than 8, 10 is less than 18, or 18 is bigger than 10. So then the output good day will be executed. So that is the difference between the if else. So if if the condition is true, then the first line of code will be executed. Else, the second line of code will be executed. So that explains that. Can we move on to the next aspect of the if statement? And then we also have use the else if statement to specify a new condition if the first condition is false. So let's look at the syntax over here. If condition 1, block of code to be executed if condition 1 is true. Else, if condition 2, block of code to be executed if condition 1 is false and condition 2 is true. Else, block of code to be executed if condition 1 is false and condition 2 is false. So that explains that. Let's take an example over here. We have include our stream using namespace std. We have the int main, and then int lecture time is equal to 14. And then we've started our if statement. If lecture time is less than 12, see out morning lectures. Else, if lecture time is less than 18, see out afternoon lectures. Else, see out evening lectures. So over here, if the first condition is true, then good morning will be executed, or morning lectures will be executed. Else, if the first condition is false, then it means that what? After, and it checks again, is the lecture time less than 18? If the lecture time is less than 18, then good afternoon will be executed. Else, good evening, meaning that what? The first two conditions does not satisfy, then the third output, which is good evening, will be executed. And then later we return 0, and then we end our program. So that explains the if, else, if statement. So we have the first if statement, else, and then the second if statement comes, and then else the conditions if two of the other statements are not true. So that explains that between the if statement, the if else, the if else if statement. So maybe you probably will consider other examples to check if we'll get a better understanding about it. And I'll encourage my student that you also have to check other examples of other tasks to see whether the condition will be true, or maybe whether you will get a better understanding over the work that we are doing. So now let's look at another example. We are looking at the condition where we have what include IO stream using namespace std. We have the int main. If n is greater than 0, if n modulo 2 is equal to 1, see out positive odd number, else see out positive even number, else see out negative or 0. So over here, it checks the condition. If the number is greater than 0, if the number is greater than 0, then it means that it's either the number is 1, 2, 3, or anything that is bigger than 0. If the number is greater than 0 and the number modulo 2 is equal to 1, then it means that the number is an odd number. But if the number modulo 2 is equal to 0, then it means it is an even number. So over here, we are checking whether the number is a positive number and whether the number is an odd number or an even number. So that explains that. If you don't understand it well, maybe probably you can send me a code and then probably I could explain further for you. And then let's look at the second example. We have include our string using namespace std. We have the int main, and then we have int max. Okay, over here we make the condition that if max greater than 0 and max less than 50, what do we write? See out, resit examination. Else, if max is greater than 50 and max is less than 100, what do we write? See out, pass exams, congrats. Else, max out of order, and then we return 0. So over here, we can pick our max, let's say equal to 0, or maybe max equals to 50, equals to 31, equals to 75, equals to 54, and then we'll check from here whether the person has a resit exams to take, or the person has, let's say, has passed the exams, and then the congratulation message would come. If you enter anything out of that, then it means that it will trigger an error, meaning that marks out of order. Are we okay? So the mark should fall within 0 to 100. So that explains that. So you can put in any value. You can initialize the value of marks, because over here, the value of marks have not been initialized. We can initialize it, giving it a value within the statement, or we can initialize it accepting input from the user to check whether the marks should go for a resit examination or the student have passed the examination. So that explains that. Any other information pertaining to that, you can send that to me and then we can move on. It says there is also a shorthand if else, which is known as the ternary operator because it consists of 3 operands. It can be used to replace multiple lines of code with a single line. It is often used to replace simple if-else statements. So let's look at the syntax for that. That is for the ternary operator. We have the variable, the condition, and then there is a question mark over here. The expression if it is true, and then the second expression if it is false. So over here, it checks the condition over here. If the condition is true, the first expression will be executed. If the condition is false, the second expression will be considered. So now let's look at this. Int time equals 20. If time less than 18, output good day, else good evening. Now, the same expression can be written simpler using the ternary operator. That is, we have int time equals 20, string results, and then we say time less than 18. If time is less than 18, good day will be executed, else good evening will be executed. So now let's check the value of time over here. Over here, value of time is 20. So over here, what will be the output? The output is that the condition is false because 20 is not less than 18. So the good evening will be executed. So over here, our result would execute good evening. So this is how simpler the ternary operator can give us the expression that looks like the if-else statement. So maybe probably in the examination, I can write an if-else statement and then I'll ask you to write the same expression using the ternary operator, and then you should be able to write it accordingly. So this is the message to my students over there, so that you take advantage and then get to know about the ternary operator and how to write a statement from the if-else statement to the ternary operator, or using the ternary operator. Now let's look at this. Just like the if else chain, the switch statement allows you to choose between multiple alternatives. The switch statement compares the value of one expression with multiple constants. So we are now going to talk about the switch statement, and this is the expression of the switch statement. We have the syntax over here. We have the switch, we have the expression, and then we have what case one. The statement will be executed when case one is true and the statement of case one is executed, a break would come in, meaning that once the break come in, all the codes below will not be executed, provided case one or provided the constant one or the statement one is true. So this is how the switch statement works. It compares series of statements to find out which one is true. When one is considered true, all other statements will be what? Will be rejected, and then the one which is true will be executed. So let's look at the following explanations over here. It says that the switch expression is evaluated once. The value of the expression is compared with the values of each case. So we have here case 1, case 2, we can also have case 3, case 4, and then we can have the default statements. So if there is a match, the associated block of code is executed. When C++ reaches a break, the keyword it breaks out of the switch block. This will stop the execution of more code and the case testing inside the block code. So when a match is found, the job is done. It is time for a break. There is no need for more testing. So once the statement is true, a break comes in, and all other statements or all other codes will not be what? Will not be regarded. So let's try to see if we can get an example with respect to the switch statement. So over here, let's look at it. We have int day equals 4. Now we are comparing the number or the variable or the value of the day, which is 4, to all the cases over here. When we find a match, the output will be executed. So over here, we have case 1. Case 1 outputs yam and stew, and then there is a break. Case 2 has fried rice and chicken. There is a break. Case 3 has breakfast tea. There is a break. Case 4 has kinky and fish. And over here, what is the value of the day? The value of the day is equal to 4. It compares that to case 4, and then kinky and fried fish will be executed. So it will ignore all the other statements. The yam and stew, the fried rice and chicken, the breakfast tea will be ignored, and then the value kinky and tea would be executed. So that explains how the case statement or the switch statement works. Now let's look at this line of code. It says write a program to check if a year is leap year or not. If a year is divisible by 4, then it is a leap year. But if the year is century, a century year like 2000, 1900, 2100, then it must be divisible by 400. So let's look at the line of code. Include IO stream using namespace std, the int main. We have the int year. Now see out. It says enter year. So over here, we are picking the value of year from the user. And then once we pick the value of year from the user, we assign the value of year to the what? To the variable year. Now, then we come to the if statement. Over here, we are also using the other operators that would help us to join statements. Okay, so we are using the AND operator, and then the AND operator would make sure that both conditions are satisfied. So both conditions are satisfied. And then we also have the OR statement here. The OR statement means that at least one of the statements must be satisfied before the output would come out. So over here, it compares if the year is a modulo of 4, and it is if the year mode 4 is equal to 0. If the year mode 4 is equal to 0 and the year mode 100 is not equal to 0, or the year mode 400 is equal to 0, then it means what? C out year is a leap year. So it means that if it is 2000, it will come out that 2000 is a leap year. Else, if the statement is not true over here, then this line of code will be executed. Let's say 2001 is not a leap year, and then we have our return 0. Oh, sorry about that. The return 0 is supposed to be just 1. Forgive me for that. Maybe I'll do that correction as we move on. So return 0 is just to be 1. So you can delete one of them, because when you write the same code, preferably it may give you an error. So that explains that. So this gives us a better understanding of whether we can compare two conditions. Either both conditions are true, or we can compare one condition. If one condition is satisfied, then the output would come out successfully over here. So that explains that we can have more examples and work on them, and then we can see the way forward. Now, over here, let's look at the differences between the switch and then the if statement. Over here, it says that the if else chain is more versatile than the switch statement. Every section can be programmed using the if else chain, but you would frequently need to compare the value of an integral expression with a series of possible values. In this case, and only this case, you can use the switch statement. So know when to use the switch statement and know when to use the if statement, and then things will be better for you. Now let's look at some question over here. It says that a company decides to give 15% to employees if his or a year's service is more than 5 years. Asks user for their salary and year of service and prints the net bonus amount. Now, let's look at the second question. A student will not be allowed to sit in exams if his or her attendance is less than 75%. Take the following input from user: number of classes held, number of, and then let's look at the second one, number of classes attended, and print percentage of classes attended. If student is allowed to sit in exams, is student allowed to sit in exams or not? So over here, once you take the total number of classes that has been held, and then you find out the number of classes that has been attended by the student, you can strike the average. If the average is less than 75 of that, then you can give out the print statement whether the student is allowed to sit exams or the student is not allowed to sit exams. Try your hands on these and let's look at the way forward with that. If you have any questions, send that to me. Send it to me through my WhatsApp number. Send it to me through the YouTube over here. Write a comment whether you like what I've shared with you concerning the conditional statement, the if statement, and then the switch statement. Get a better understanding of that. If you have any challenge, write to me and let's work on it well. That's the instructor J.A. Anang. Thanks very much. Programming using C++. For watching. Share the video. Like the video. Ask people to follow the page. Let's learn programming. Let's learn C++. Send me a WhatsApp message. May the good Lord keep you. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord lead you in everything that you do. And thanks very much.